Hello, everyone. Welcome to another edition of your Handmade Business Television, YHB TV, a weekly series dedicated to helping you navigate everything #MakerLife. I am Sharon Fain, co-director of Academy of Handmade, a supportive community for makers. Each week on YHB TV, we tackle a topic that we think gets deeper into what's really going on in your business. Over here is my partner in Maker Crime, Isaac Watson. He is the other director of Academy of Handmade. Say hello, Isaac.
Hello.
So for this episode of YHB TV, it is brought to you by Jumpstart Your Handmade Business. Isaac and I have met thousands of makers over the years, and we have noticed that there tends to be one major thing that makes it hard to make progress, and it's getting clarity and defining your roadmap to success. Our self-guided Jumpstart program helps you understand the big picture of your business by setting goals, knowing your numbers, and honing in on the right resources for the right solution. You can learn more at academyofhandmade.com/jumpstart, or the button below here should take you to our quiz, which will also help you understand if Jumpstart is right for you. So Isaac and I, right before we got on here, we were having a discussion making sense on what is, I am sure to most of you, the big news of the day, which is Etsy going and Etsy kind of changing things around. They've hiked seller fees to 5% now, and they're also rolling out these what was I going to say?
Like
yes, packages. Premium packages. So they have given the reason for the hike in seller fees is that they are going to start having money to get more buyers onto the site. So yeah, let's talk about that, Isaac. What do we think of this?
First of all, not surprised. I think 3.5% listing or commission for Etsy, which has essentially been the same since its inception, I believe, is really low, especially compared to what Amazon charges, compared to what other platforms like a lot of people have been talking about Indigo Fair lately, and that's like, I think first orders are 25%.
On wholesale. That's not even on like retail. That is wholesale.
So on some level, I think I would say like it's about time. On another level, it's kind of a bummer that that this happened for anybody who's not ready for that. But we have some thoughts about those of you who might not be ready for a higher fee. I don't know. What do you want to dive into first about it, Sharon?
Well, I think most of our community is probably going to be able to absorb the 1.5% increase. I don't think it's a huge increase, so I think most people are going to be able to absorb it. It's obviously a bummer for people because money is money when that goes away. But I do think so there's that. I don't think it's from what I can tell from most, I would say, like, more serious sellers, that I don't think they're that bummed on 1.5%, the 1.5% too much or outraged or whatever. I think what it potentially is going to do is going to knock some people off the site who are not as serious. And I think that I don't think that's a bad thing necessarily. Less competition for you. I think Etsy's model has been to become the biggest, and there's some smart strategy in that. They've swallowed up a lot of smaller companies. They've decided to grow via acquisition, right? So in getting as many people on as possible, they have, I think, intentionally kept their percentage low because it's hard for other people to compete with that, other competitor businesses to rise up. But it's also how you get more people onto your site because it makes it feel so easy to just start. And then they make money through a bunch of listing fees. And even if people never buy from your shop, because you're just joining just for whatever, and Etsy is very hard to get attention on. Etsy was feeling like the volume of sellers and their fees on there was what was making up for not having higher fees. So I think now there's kind of a bit of a reckoning. I think they plateaued in that. I don't think, there's obviously a lot of Chinese crap on there that should not be on there, and they're getting seller fees and other things off of that, so they're not incentivized to kick them off. But I think this will help, make it, make Etsy less of an attractive place to dump things, I guess. So I think that's exciting. And I think hopefully it will help more people adjust their prices to accurately reflect what it means to, have a handmade product and how much that should cost. Yeah.
Say that if you're a seller on Etsy and you're actually legitimately concerned about being able to absorb the increase of the commission, you should re-examine your pricing, because that's a really, really tight margin to be running if 1.5% is a make or break for you.
Yeah, totally. Another thing is they have these new packages that they're going to start with one release next month. It's going to be $10 a month and then go up to $20 a month. So that's $240 a year, or $120 a year, depending on if they keep it at that price or not. It kind of seems like you're not really getting a lot. And I kind of feel like most people who are like serious sellers, like really understand their needs and understand what would be worth the price of convenience for them. And I kind of don't see that happening. So I don't think having premium packages is a bad idea. Like, I think there's a lot of tools and other things that I feel like more advanced sellers have been asking for. And I think that's great. I don't think that's a bad idea. I just don't know if these packages, which even the one that they've released details on, still feels a little bit vague to me. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think any kind of premium package like this, I mean, it just reminds me of when they started pushing for the abandoned cart coupons. I would say take it all with a grain of salt. Be willing to experiment a little bit if you think it's something that might benefit your business, but go into it with kind of a critical eye and make sure that it's something that actually makes a lot of sense if you're going to try it out.
Yeah, totally. So I think, we'll see what this means. CS is saying, and a charge on shipping. Well, I mean, I totally think it's a valid reason for why they're doing it, which is to say that people were essentially gaming the system and charging a higher shipping price so that they could avoid fees and then charge a lower item price. So I think that makes sense. I don't feel like charging on shipping is completely out of some sort of industry norm. I don't think it's obviously, yes, like you said, all of this adds up to money, and of course it is a bummer for people to not have that money that they were counting on. But again, sometimes as you're adjusting you do have to increase your price. I know, but that's not what this was, though. This is, yes, definitely adjust your prices everywhere to recoup this money if this is a big deal for you. And every year you should be obviously evaluating what prices you can raise. But people were sneakily charging less so that they didn't have to pay the fees. And that's why they're putting the fees on everything. So, I mean, yes, point is that people were charging way more for that, but they are selling the item for less, which was, an artificially low price to other sellers and also was cutting money from Etsy. So that's why they chose to do it that way. But again, I mean, if Etsy is driving this just further reinforces that if Etsy is driving traffic to you, and any of these sales you get from Etsy, that's great. That's Etsy earning their commission on all of this stuff, right? But having your own website obviously is where you should be driving the traffic, because other than whatever you pay a month for your website, you know, there are no other fees, I guess, other than, you know, credit card transaction. Like the cost, your website is almost always, if you're setting it up correctly, going to be lower overhead than Etsy. And so you should not be directing your sale anyone to Etsy. You should be directing it to whatever your own website is.
For sure. So I would say that we, of course, would love to hear more feedback from you all on it. This episode was not meant to be about this.
No.
Going into it because it's hot news. But if you aren't already part of our Facebook group, you should definitely come join, because Sharon posted in there earlier today about it, and we're getting some good comments from the community about how that's affecting their business, as well as how you know, whether or not they feel like the extra seller tools are worth it for the premium packages. So would love for you to contribute to that conversation. All right. Well, our actual topic today is Christmas in July, in June, because it's still June. But we want to help you prepare for Christmas in July. That's why we're doing it in June. So
yes.
This is a topic that I had the idea for a couple weeks ago when I had Kylie from Period 6 Studio join me on YHB TV while Sharon was out of town. And it occurred to me, and it always sneaks up on me, and I know it sneaks up on a lot of other makers, that retail buyers are often starting their holiday shopping now, but the majority of them are starting their shopping in July to get those orders in the works for the upcoming holiday season. So we thought we would take the next couple of weeks to look at a couple key areas where you might stand to improve or better prepare for the holiday season now to set yourself up for success. So in particular, this week we wanted to talk about prepping for wholesale in general. Yeah, like I was saying, the buyers are starting to look at holiday stuff now, and they're thinking forward 2 seasons, because that's what buyers always do, especially those shops that are on top of their game. And I just remember Kylie mentioning that she wasn't actively buying per se right now, but she was definitely like looking around, seeing what was out there, and starting to map out what her plan of attack was going to be come July, and even starting to place a few orders from those core makers that she definitely knew she wanted to buy from. So I think that if that's not a wake-up call, then I don't know what is. But I think it's important to really get your action plan in place and to start. I mean, right now is a great time to start looking at what's trending for the holidays. Look at new or different ways that you might be able to set yourselves apart and your products apart for the holidays to get those orders rolling, things like that. That it's time, basically. No time like the present. So yeah, typically wholesale buyers are doing their core buying in July and August, doing some window shopping in June. I think it's important to emphasize that doesn't mean you're immediately expected to ship product right now or the second when you get an order in.
Totally. I mean, I think this is a good time to get conversations going with buyers that you already have. Start doing some nudges to people who, you know, you're interested in. Like, start this sort of buttering up. Like, you should, you know, have the targets of who you want to land a wholesale account with, or who you've been having conversations with before. Like, you should start having, you know, things prepared to start talking with them. Plan your, you know, strategy and attack. Get postcards ready if there's stuff that's happening. Get your newsletters ready. Like, start nudging people and letting them know things are coming. If you have any new terms, what it's gonna, if they're thinking about the holidays now and letting them know that you're ready is great, but also letting them know, like, if there's going to be deadlines for certain things and when things are going to get released and when you're going to stop shipping certain things, and anything that there's going to be like limited run or things that are going to be hard for them to get during that season so that they can start ordering now is just thoughtful.
Yeah, I think it does a lot to show that you're on top of your game, that you're ready.
Mm-hmm.
Thinking about it, because that's going to instill confidence in your buyers that you're going to be able to follow through on things. And even think about, like, what products do you want to highlight for the holidays? Are there best sellers you're going to bring back? Are there new versions of something? Is there a whole new line you want to release? Are you in the process of developing a new product that you can tie into the holiday season? Those are all really, really key things to be doing right now. The other things that would help, I mean, because obviously it's one thing to tell your buyers you're ready, it's another thing to actually be ready to accept wholesale orders. So you're going to want to definitely update your documents and your process. So dust off that line sheet if you haven't looked at it in a little while, and maybe update it a little bit, or make sure all your products are correct, your pricing's accurate. Double check your purchasing process, whether that's a PDF form or an online link. Just go through and make sure that everything is tweaked and refined and updated. If you have any mentions of like holiday 2017, you want to make sure you update that to 2018, so it doesn't look like you haven't given it much thought.
Totally.
If you have a catalog, make sure that you prep any inserts for it, or maybe you're in the process of doing a holiday version of your catalog, whatever that is. Basically, you want to think about that process from start to finish of a buyer making a purchase from you and getting everything in their store, and make sure that every point along the way you have things updated and ready to go.
Totally. I think the other thing too is that so much is like with this whole Etsy announcement, with the fact that like the holidays are just around the corner, getting everything dialed in is huge. Getting pricing particularly in order is huge. Making sure, obviously like the costs that you figured out 4 years ago might not be the costs that are still today. So like, is everything still as it should be? Are you making the right amount of money? Like, is this true to, is your business currently reflecting what's actually going on? If you are feeling like a little bit stuck in all of this, this is also the perfect time to do Jumpstart. We talk about pricing, we talk about systems, all of that in there. So again, that program as well, I think can be really helpful to you guys.
Mm-hmm.
Does anyone have any questions? Did you have more to say, Isaac? I feel like we kind of like rushed through that a little because we were like, oh, we're talking about Etsy. Spend so much time talking about Etsy.
Yeah, I mean, I think I feel like it's easy to get locked into like summer mode. Let's have some fun and go on a vacation or take some time off, or have fun with the kids. And I think that it's easy to let these next couple of months slip by unnoticed, when you could be doing a lot of legwork that's going to save you time, hassle, energy, effort in the fall, because you don't want to scramble in September and October to try and get a few more holiday orders out there. You don't have to worry about getting rejections because all these buyers have already filled up their shops, or getting small orders because they just have a few little holes to fill here or there, or they're not quite there. So I think that it's it's perfect timing. It's not the ideal timing. I don't think anybody wants to be like sending out holiday catalogs in the middle of July because it just feels like you're already moved on from summer. But it's really important. I think it's really useful, and I think that it will. It's that kind of legwork is going to just put you that much ahead of the game when the time comes, especially if you can front load your production, and then you can focus on your shows and
Yep.
your retail sales and things like that.
I think the biggest thing is that obviously like wholesale right now, and the other thing is any kind of product that you want to be sold for the holidays, that's holiday special, that's, related to the holidays at all, that you're going to promote during the holidays. If you don't have a clear idea of what that is now, have, mock-ups, have whatever, depending on your product, whatever it is, samples. If you don't have anything to start showing for that new product soonish, it's going to be very difficult to capitalize, go into production on a new product in, say, October, So it's hard because I think the ideas of like that stuff can feel, it feels so far away. You're not having those ideas about that yet. But I definitely think as much as you can make yourself, get creative and get into production, get all of that scheduled, figure that stuff out. You'll just be way ahead of the game when it comes time to both make the thing and also promote the thing.
Yeah. It's going to reduce your stress too. You won't be having to worry about fulfilling orders and prepping inventory for, online sales or in-person shows, things like that. It makes it a lot easier. And I think it goes a long way to putting the systems in place that you need to be successful and giving you the kind of that buffer to grow as you need to.
Yeah. Okay. Well, do you have anything else to add on Etsy since we're coming to this end here?
I don't know. I feel like ever since they announced the closing of Etsy Wholesale, maybe since before that, maybe it's just this year, it's just like one thing after another, and it's going to continue to be that. And roll with the punches. That's what we got to do. So yep. I think the hair on fire mentality is a little tired at this point. So I think we just respond in kind and make sure our priorities are aligned properly. I think this is a good opportunity for some people to make sure that they have another platform, that they don't have all their eggs in the Etsy basket, whether that's your own website or using another similar platform to Etsy. Those are great strategies, and it's perfect time to make sure you're diversifying your sales channels.
Yep. I think it's always a good time to remember that nothing in business is fixed or guaranteed. So you have to be able to adapt. You have to be able to figure out a new strategy, best ways around it. You should always, have good margins so this stuff doesn't hit you super hard. Things like that. Patty has a question here. She says, do you think Etsy's move will drive people to Amazon Handmade /Prime? Okay, so somebody in the chat already says that they had a warning from Etsy that they were charging too much shipping, and it wasn't a penny more than UPS was charging. And I think that's because probably Etsy is really in gung-ho mode about, even though this is kind of not going to help the current situation, is in gung-ho mode about you offering low pricing because that's what people expect because of Amazon. So I think that's probably why you got that warning. They just have seemed to be really about that this last year. That, and then and I'm guessing also the seller fees too, is probably, thinking that you maybe shifted some of that over. So that's probably why you got that warning. And that wasn't necessarily Patty's question, but when she said Amazon Handmade /Prime, if you're on Amazon Handmade, You don't have to be a part of their Prime structure at all, or even just on regular Amazon too. So, I mean, I think that's pretty hard for most small maker types to do. But for Amazon Handmade, I mean, definitely now I think the pricing structures start to become closer to each other. Even though I still think Etsy is a little bit cheaper. But you know, both of these are ways for, you know, both of these are marketplaces, and whatever those commissions that those sites earn, it's because they're driving traffic to you, right? So I think people will probably explore Amazon Handmade more. To me, it just seems like overreactionary to be like, I'm completely shutting down Etsy, right? Like, I feel like you should have already maybe have been exploring Amazon Handmade and seeing if that is something that could also help your business if you were already feeling like you were stuck on Etsy, right? Like, I don't feel like it's a secret that in the last few years, Etsy has stagnated for a lot of people. So if that was you, then you should definitely look at Amazon Handmade. If people are mad that seller fees are going up, so they're going to look at Amazon Handmade, I feel like that's a weird thing, because basically Amazon Handmade, I think, is still a little bit more in fees. Maybe a little bit less depending on what listing fees are, because I don't think Amazon Handmade charges listing fees. But all that to say, yeah, I mean, if it's right for someone's business, that's great. We had a big discussion about it during our state of making. I think for a lot of businesses, it can open them up. I think for a lot of businesses, the more viable thing is for them to make sure to have their own website and stop using Etsy as their only shopping cart, which I feel like for the last few years has been the drum we've banged.
Mm-hmm. I also think it's important to emphasize that Amazon as a platform is a very different marketplace and audience than Etsy. It
Yeah.
was created in competition to Etsy, but it's not bringing the same types of people to it that Etsy is seeking. And so I think if you are going to consider Amazon Handmade, you need to take a look at who the typical customer is there and whether or not your product is right for that customer. And I think we talked about this a little bit with, did we talk about this with Amanda at Bread and Badger during?
We might have. We talked about it maybe, I think, with also Lizzie from Forgotten Cotton.
Yeah. It's just
I think
shopping mentality.
I think she talks about it being a lot more transactional.
Yes.
Over there, so it's definitely a different customer, and for some people, it's not going to make sense to expand on there. That their customer is definitely much more of an Etsy customer. Though I think in the last few years, the Etsy customer has even changed a lot. So, yeah. Look for your own website, I think is the main thing that people should be looking out for this. So you control things a lot more there than you do on Etsy.
Yeah. And the big difference is,
and you can get people on your newsletter.
Yeah. And the big difference is then you don't have anybody sending you traffic like Etsy and Amazon Handmade might be through their own searches. But that's when, you're looking at search engine optimization, and maybe you're looking at Google AdWords, or you're looking at social media marketing as a way to drive that traffic yourself in a way that you have more control over than just letting a behemoth company do all the generic work for you.
Yep. So those are our thoughts. Next week, we have another edition of Christmas in July, and it's going to be all about media strategy. So I hope you guys will join us. Same time as always, back here, Thursdays, 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Eastern. I feel like anything else to add, Isaac?
That's all I've got. And we lost Sharon, apparently. So yeah, unfortunately I can't even end the broadcast because she's got the control. But yeah, hope you rejoin us next week. We are in our Facebook group in the meantime, and we are around on social media and just generally trying to be. So say hi if you